What's going on, guys? Welcome to another video. Today I will be giving you my own March Madness predictions for the 2021 NCAA tournament. As you can see here, I have made several rough drafts of this year's bracket. I've gone back and forth on several picks, and now today is early Wednesday. I have finally settled on my final bracket for the 2021 tournament. I'm not one of those guys that makes a ton of brackets and just kind of hopes one of them does well. I handcraft my bracket from start to finish. I don't make any other entries. I only do one bracket. So the bracket I'm showing you today is the bracket I am entering in all of my pools, and this is the bracket that I will live or die on over the next 3 weeks. So without further ado, here are my official 2021 NCAA tournament predictions. Let's go. All right, so let's start with the West region. Just to preface, this is probably one of the easiest regions I've ever seen for a 1 seed. Gonzaga got a total walk to the Final Four. In fact, before we even start, I'm just going to put Gonzaga into the Final Four. So down here, you'll see them in the Final Four. Listen, the committee did Gonzaga so many favors here. The 2, the 3, and the 4 seed, they have all played earlier in the season, and they beat them handily. So, in my opinion, there is no team that really can compete with Gonzaga in this region. So for me, it's just all about who's filling in the rest of these spots here rather than who's getting to the Final Four, because I think Gonzaga is just that good. But let's fill out the rest of this bracket anyway. So we have Oklahoma, Missouri. I was going Oklahoma here, but then Davion Harmon just got announced that he can't play due to a positive COVID test. So I will take Missouri here. I think Xavier Pinson, Jeremiah Tillman, especially Jeremiah Tillman, he'll give Oklahoma problems down low. And I will take Mizzou here. Creighton, UCSB. Give me UCSB. I think Creighton has been wildly inconsistent. They don't have a lot of good momentum right now, given that they just lost to Georgetown by like 25 in the Big East title game. UCSB, on the other hand, has been really good in the Big West. I think Ja'Cory McLaughlin is a guy that you want to keep your eye on as we head into the tournament. So give me the Gauchos here beating the Blue Jays. Virginia, Ohio. Virginia is one of the teams being really affected by COVID right now. I will take Ohio because Jason Preston is an NBA player. He's averaging 16 points, 7 boards, 7 assists. And he's kind of, I think Jay Billis said this, he's kind of like the LaMelo Ball of college basketball in that he can just do everything. Ohio was the 5 seed in the MAC, but they pretty much ran through the tournament. They beat the 1 seed Toledo, they beat the 2 seed Buffalo, and they beat them all really easily. So I like Ohio. I like the momentum they have right now. I will take them to upset Virginia, who is dealing with a lot of COVID situations right now. So give me Ohio here. USC versus the winner of Wichita State and Drake. I think regardless of who wins the play-in game, I will take USC. I think Evan Mobley will be a lot to handle for either of those teams, so give me USC. Kansas, Eastern Washington. I know Kansas is down 2 significant players. I think they announced that McCormick will be able to play in the tournament, which is good, but they're going to be down Jalen Wilson and Tristan Enaruna. But regardless of that, I will still take Kansas here to advance. Oregon, VCU. I like VCU. I like Bones Highland, but Oregon just has too many weapons. Chris Duarte, I think, is a really good two-way player for them. Eugene Omarui has been really good on the blocks, and so I think Oregon just has enough athletes and just overall talent to get by VCU here. And Iowa, Grand Canyon, I will take Iowa here. All right, moving on to the round of 32. We already established that Gonzaga has beaten Missouri. UCSB, Ohio. I really buy Jason Preston, so I will have Ohio moving on to the Sweet 16. USC, Kansas. I think this is where Kansas's absence has come back to bite them. I think USC has a lot of underrated shot makers, specifically Taj Edey. I think he's a guy who can really get hot at the right time. So I will take USC to beat Kansas here. And finally, Oregon, Iowa. This has been a trendy upset pick. A lot of people like Oregon here. I don't really. I think Oregon's a little bit too inconsistent for my liking. Iowa, meanwhile, I just think Luka Garza will be a force against an undersized Oregon team. So give me Iowa to move on here. All right, we have Gonzaga, Ohio. Obviously, I'm taking Gonzaga. Just too many skilled players. Corey Kispert, Jalen Suggs. They're destined for a Final Four run at worst, in my opinion, so I will take the Zags. And then USC, Iowa. I am going to take USC here. Evan Mobley, I think, could really do some damage defensively against Luka Garza. I think Mobley will give Garza some trouble. I think Iowa is very reliant on the three-point ball. They're only 500 when they shoot under 35% from 3 on the year. And so I will take USC to beat Iowa here and make it to the Elite Eight. And finally, in a battle of West Coast teams, we have Gonzaga, USC. Listen, I like USC a lot, but Gonzaga is just too good. Again, The shot making on every level for Gonzaga is just unmatched by any team in the country. So to me, Gonzaga is the easy pick in the West region to get to the Final Four. All right, in the South, we start with Baylor and Hartford. I will take Baylor here. North Carolina, Wisconsin. This game I've gone back and forth on. I think North Carolina has really turned it on as of late. Listen, their size up front, I think, will be the difference maker here, and I think North Carolina will get by Wisconsin. Wisconsin's one of those teams that's just been brutalized by their schedule, obviously in the Big Ten, and I just don't really think they have the physicality up front to contain North Carolina's bigs. I think North Carolina wins this one. Villanova, Winthrop. I will take Winthrop here. Listen, Villanova just isn't the same team without Colin Gillespie. Winthrop, on the other hand, has a really good 6'7" point guard by the name of Chandler Vaudrin. They're obviously 24-1, won the Big South Conference rather handily. I like Winthrop's momentum here, and I think they will move on and beat Villanova. The 4-13 in this region is Purdue and North Texas, and I'm kind of upset because I really liked North Texas. I think Javion Hamlet's a really good player, but they just ran up against a Purdue team that I just think is too good to be upset in the first round by North Texas here. And it's a shame because if you put North Texas in any other 4-13 game, I think I might have taken them. But with Purdue, I just think their guards are getting better as the season goes on. I think Travion Williams is a real issue for a lot of these mid-major teams. And so I will take Purdue moving on to the second round. Texas Tech, Utah State. I think Texas Tech is a little bit deeper in terms of who can do what on the floor. I think their defense will really contain and disrupt Nehemias Queta, and so I have them moving on. And then here we have Arkansas Colgate. Colgate somehow has been a very popular upset pick just because they're ninth in the Met, even though they've played like 7 teams all year. I think Arkansas wins this one, and I don't really think it'll be close. Florida, Virginia Tech. I've been back and forth on this one a lot. This was a very tough game for me. I'm going to go with Virginia Tech here because I think they buy in a little bit more. I think Mike Young really has this team playing well. And I know they've had issues with COVID and they've only practiced however many days in the last month. But I think Justin Mutz, I think Keve Aluma, Tyrese Radford, Wabisa Bide, they have guys who have been there before in the tournament. And so I think that experience holds up here as opposed to a Florida team where a lot of their key guys haven't played in the tournament before. Give me Virginia Tech and Mike Young moving on to the round of 32. And here we have Ohio State Oral Roberts. I'm going to surprise you here. I really am. I'm going to take Oral Roberts to beat Ohio State. Here's why. Max Asmus is the leading scorer in Division I. They have Kevin O'Banner, who is a really good pick-and-pop big. Kyle Young might not be at 100% if he even plays for Ohio State. Oral Roberts has played 5 tournament teams this year. They lost to Oklahoma State by 5. They lost to Wichita State by 5. They were up by 10 at Arkansas before losing by 11. They lost by 14 to Oregon, and they lost by 27 to Missouri. But, that was opening night. A lot of things going wrong. I think Oral Roberts is due. And listen, I've never picked a 2-15 upset before. This is my first one ever. I'm taking the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes in the first round in what is my biggest upset of the tournament by far. Moving on to the second round, we have Baylor, North Carolina. This is a game I really struggled with because North Carolina matches up really well with Baylor when it comes to offensive rebounding. Baylor obviously struggles with a lack of size and a lack of defensive rebounding. North Carolina just attacks the glass, probably one of the best offensive rebounding teams, if not the best, in the country. Still, though, I like Baylor's experienced guards better than North Carolina's guards, and I think Baylor is just overall the more talented team here. North Carolina is really inconsistent, and I think Baylor, with a week of practice, their defense should be better. I'm going to take Baylor moving on to the Sweet 16, but if I'm Baylor, I am terrified of North Carolina, but I just think Baylor's a little bit too good for North Carolina here. Winthrop, Purdue, I will take Purdue. Again, Purdue I just think is one of those solid 4th seeds. I don't really think they're upsettable. Their guards are young, but I think Travion Williams is a really, really, really nice option to have. You should have watched the Big Ten semifinal where they were just going to him on every single play. Ohio State couldn't stop him. And so I think he is a very nice asset to have against Winthrop here, and I will take Purdue beating the Eagles. Texas Tech and Arkansas, I will take Texas Tech here. Listen, I trust the Big 12 this year. I think they are the best league in the country in terms of a tournament depth standpoint. I will take Texas Tech beating Arkansas. Arkansas has a lot of transfers, a lot of guys who haven't played in the tournament. Texas Tech, Chris Beard always seems to overperform his seed in the tournament. Their defense will be really smothering for teams that haven't seen it before, and I will take Texas Tech beating Arkansas. All right, Virginia Tech, Oral Roberts. I will take Virginia Tech beating Oral Roberts. It was a fun ride for the Golden Eagles, but right here, I think Virginia Tech has what it takes to get to the Sweet 16. I will take them beating Oral Roberts. And now we have Baylor and Purdue. I will take Baylor here, but again, Purdue is another one of those teams that just plays so damn hard. And if Baylor's not alert and if they're not good defensively, they could easily be caught sleeping by this Purdue team. I happen to think the better version of Baylor will show up in the tournament, and so I will have them beating Purdue. And then finally, the battle of Techs and Texas Tech and Virginia Tech. I will take Texas Tech here. Again, I think their defense is really, really, really good, especially against teams that they haven't played against yet. You know, it's easy to look at their results in the Big 12 and act like they haven't had a great year. But listen, their defense is still one of the best in the country. It's super confusing. They all play really hard. I think Mac McClung is a guy who really can make tough shots when needed. And I will take Texas Tech beating the Hokies here. And in the Elite Eight, we have a Big 12 rematch. It is hard to beat a team 3 times, as Baylor would be doing if they were to win against Texas Tech, but I think they will do it here. Baylor going to the Final Four over the Red Raiders. Again, just a lot of experienced guard play, really good shooters all around the floor. They're the best three-point shooting team in the country. I buy that in the tournament. They haven't been the same defensive team since they got back from their COVID layoff, but I think Baylor, with a week of practice, will beat Texas Tech here and get to the Final Four. All right, now we got the Midwest region. Illinois Drexel, we start off. Drexel isn't a 16 seed. I think they probably could have been a 15 seed, but, you know, tomatoes, Illinois will win by 20. Loyola Chicago, Georgia Tech, probably one of the most fun first-round matchups. I have Georgia Tech winning just because I think their defense and their intensity is a lot less system-reliant than Loyola. I think Loyola really needs to control the pace in order to win. I think Georgia Tech can get out and run, and I think that might throw Loyola off. I have the Yellow Jackets winning here. I understand that one of their guys tested positive. We aren't really sure who that is, but I still think Georgia Tech beats Loyola Chicago here, and that's a shame because both of these teams, I think, were potential second weekend teams, but they just got totally screwed by their bracket. Tennessee, Oregon State. A lot of people are buying the Oregon State hype. I'm really not. I have Tennessee winning here. Listen, the athletes are there. They've started to play better down the stretch. Listen, Rick Barnes in the tournament, I know he's not great, but I think he does enough here to get by the Beavers. Oklahoma State, Liberty. Liberty is a really good team. They have a lot of high-level veteran guards, but they don't have Cade Cunningham. I will take the Cowboys to beat Liberty here. San Diego State, Syracuse. I trust the Aztecs and Brian Dutcher here. Syracuse is obviously really good in the tournament, but you had to take into account that their zone was a lot better in previous runs where they outperformed their seed. San Diego State shoots the ball really well. They're a veteran, disciplined team. Syracuse's defense is not what it once was. They really need Buddy Boeheim to go off if they want any chance of winning. San Diego State's pack line defense should cause a lot of problems, and I have the Aztecs moving on here. All right, West Virginia, Morehead State. I will take the Mountaineers in a rather easy contest. I know West Virginia as a 3 seed is a little bit dicey given previous tournaments, but I really like this Bob Huggins team, and I will take them to move on here. Clemson against Rutgers. I will take Rutgers. Clemson, I just think, has been one of these teams that's been overrated all year. And again, if you just look at the conferences, Big Ten versus ACC, who's had the better year in terms of its league, and that's clearly the Big Ten. So I'll take Rutgers here. I think Ron Harper Jr., Geo Baker, Jacob Young, a lot of tough guards that can shoot well when they want to. Free throw shooting will be an issue for them, and Clemson's defense is very good. I just don't think Clemson can really hang with them offensively, so I have the Scarlet Knights moving on here. Houston, Cleveland State. Cleveland State plays really hard, and I really like their coach, Dennis Gates, but I will take the Cougars here moving on. All right, round of 32, we have Illinois, Georgia Tech. I will take Illinois, but I really think Georgia Tech could give them some issues. Jose Alvarado for Georgia Tech is just a ball thief. The amount of rear side picks that he had against Florida State in the ACC championship game was astounding. Every single play, it felt like Alvarado was getting his hands on the basketball. Illinois, though, I just think is a little bit too deep. I think Trent Frazier's emergence as a primetime scorer has really helped this team, and Illinois is playing with some of the best momentum in the country right now. I will take them moving on to the Sweet 16. Tennessee, Oklahoma State. I trust Cade Cunningham here, but this should be a really fun game. I like Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State here. I think they got a better vibe about them. But again, Tennessee, I just think they're too liable to go really cold from the field, and so I will take Oklahoma State. San Diego State, West Virginia. I will take the Mountaineers. San Diego State, I'm just not really sure has the offensive firepower to hang with the Mountaineers. You have Sean McDermott, Deuce McBride, both really high-level shot makers. Taz Sherman is another guy who I think can really make it rain on you. And so I think West Virginia beats San Diego State. And then Rutgers and Houston, I will take Houston. They play so damn hard. And listen, they foul a lot, and that's their weakness, but Rutgers is one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the field, so that shouldn't bother them too much. They have guys who can make shots at key times, and so I will take Houston moving on. We have a very chalky Sweet 16 in this region. I will take Illinois to beat Oklahoma State. I just think they're a little bit too deep for Oklahoma State. And then I will take West Virginia beating Houston. I think West Virginia can hit a different gear offensively than Houston can. And if West Virginia's offense gets going, I think they have another gear as opposed to Houston. This game will be really fun to watch, though, if it happens. Two really hard playing teams, but I like West Virginia a little bit better. And then finally in the Elite Eight, we have Illinois and West Virginia. Two programs I have really liked this year. I will take Illinois, though. I just think their defense is a little bit better than West Virginia. I think West Virginia is, again, a team kind of like Tennessee, where they tend to go stagnant at times. Illinois can beat you in a variety of different ways. I don't really know if West Virginia would have an answer for Kofi Cockburn, and so I will have Illinois moving to the Final Four. And finally, we have the East region, so let's start with Michigan and the winner of Mount St. Mary's and Texas Southern. I will take Michigan here. LSU St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure has looked really good in the A-10, but LSU, I think, has a different gear with their offense and their high-level shot makers and Javonte Smart and Cam Thomas. Even Trendon Watford you could put in that category, too. I think LSU has enough offensive firepower to get it done against St. Bonaventure. Colorado, Georgetown. Georgetown is another really popular 12-5 upset. Listen, we got to remember how good Colorado is. I know they lost to Oregon State in the Pac-12 championship game, but this team is a really good free throw shooting team. They are led by Mckinley Wright, who is a really experienced high-level guard. So I think Colorado gets by Georgetown here. Florida State, UNC Greensboro. UNC Greensboro is a team a lot of people like, especially with Isaiah Miller. But I think Florida State is just a little bit too long, too athletic for UNC Greensboro to handle. I have the Seminoles moving on. BYU and the winner of Michigan State and UCLA. This is a very popular upset pick, and I can see why, because I have Michigan State beating BYU. If UCLA beats Michigan State, which I think is a very possible thing that can happen, I might have to reevaluate this game, but assuming Michigan State wins, I will probably have Michigan State moving on past BYU here. Texas Abilene Christian. This game, I am terrified for Texas in this game, primarily because Abilene Christian forces turnovers at a really good rate. Texas's backcourt has struggled with turnovers, even though they are experienced. They do tend to turn the ball over a little bit more than you would like. At the end of the day, though, I think Texas's big men, I think Jericho Sims, I think Kai Jones, I think Greg Brown are just a little bit too much for Abilene Christian to handle. I'll have Texas moving on here, but this is a very, very dangerous game for Texas, in my opinion. UConn and Maryland, I will take UConn. James Bouknight, I think, is made for March. Really high-level shot maker. Maryland just seems to lack that offensive explosion that's needed to really beat a team like UConn. And I think the Huskies, who have been playing really well with James Bouknight in the lineup, I think they get it done here. Alabama, Iona, we have Nate Oates against Rick Pitino, which is a very fun coaching battle. Iona just doesn't really have the talent to compare to Alabama here, so I will take the Crimson Tide. All right, Michigan, LSU. I will take LSU in the upset to beat Michigan here. I think Michigan is just not the same team without Isaiah Livers. He probably isn't coming back with a broken foot. And so LSU, I trust Cam Thomas. I trust Javonte Smart. Javonte Smart has been here before as a freshman. He helped LSU get to the Sweet 16 as a starter. And so I will take the Tigers here to beat Michigan. Colorado and Florida State. Listen, I have been so high on Florida State all year, okay? I love their personnel. They have athletes. They should be able to defend well. The fact of the matter is they just really haven't hit that gear. I don't really think they have that spark plug offensively. They lack a true point guard. They have Scotty Barnes running it a lot, but he at 6'8", he still tends to make a lot of freshman mistakes. Colorado, on the other hand, McKinley Wright, Evan Batty, Deshaun Schwartz, high-level veterans. They all know their role. I will take the Buffaloes beating Florida State here in the round of 32. And now here we have Michigan State, hopefully, against Texas. I will take Texas here. I think their bigs are really good. Matt Coleman is a guy who I really like in the tournament. So I will take Texas to beat Michigan State here. And then UConn, Alabama, I will take the Crimson Tide here. UConn just doesn't really have enough firepower outside of Bouknight to hang with Alabama. Alabama plays one of the fastest tempos in the nation. And so when it comes down to it, they have a larger margin for error than most of these teams do. And so Alabama, I just think, is kind of built to beat UConn here. Sweet 16, we have LSU and Colorado. I really like Colorado, but LSU, I think they're really on a tear right now. So I will take the Tigers to get to the Elite Eight, and they will be playing Texas. And Texas I like over Alabama just because I think their bigs are athletic and skilled enough to really give Alabama problems. I think Texas would win the rebounding battle rather easily, and Texas just seems to have all the ingredients needed for the NCAA tournament. I will take the Longhorns. And then in the Elite Eight, we have LSU and Texas. Probably a better football matchup than a basketball one, but I will take the Longhorns getting to the Final Four here, beating LSU. I just think Texas is built for March. The experience in the backcourt, the front court athleticism, the versatility. I think Jace Febris is another guy who just adds an element of shooting to this roster as well. Texas, I just think, is clicking at the right time, obviously off of their Big 12 tournament win. And so I have Texas beating LSU here. So in the Final Four, we have Gonzaga against Texas and Baylor against Illinois. First matchup here, I'm probably going to surprise a few of you guys. I am going to take the Texas Longhorns to beat Gonzaga. Listen, the teams that beat Gonzaga, they need to be big, they need to be athletic, and they need to be physical. Texas has all three of those, and they also have the experienced guards to go toe-to-toe with Gonzaga's perimeter attack and Suggs, Ayayi, and Kispert. The key to beating Gonzaga, in my opinion, is disrupting and limiting Drew Timme's offense, because he's a really good passer, and he's a really good finisher around the basket. And so I think the key to stopping Gonzaga is stopping Drew Timme. And I think there were a few teams that I had in mind that were equipped to do that. Florida State was one of them, but I don't think they're good enough. Texas, though, they're another one, and I think they are good enough in terms of their talent and how they play. I think they are good enough to beat Gonzaga. Listen, if you watched my losers video, you would know that teams that go undefeated from February 1st onward never win a national championship. It's only happened once since 1985, and I think Texas is the team to knock them off. I will take the Longhorns here. In the second Final Four game, we have Baylor and Illinois. I was actually down to these two teams for my national champion. And, Illinois has been playing so well. They have all the momentum in the world. Baylor, kind of the opposite. They kind of peaked at the wrong time. They haven't played their best basketball yet. But if you go back to all my videos, Magic 8 video, you can go back to the Case for Baylor video, and you can go back to the February Madness video. I have not once wavered from Baylor, and I can't do it now. So I am going to take Baylor to beat Illinois. And in the championship, I will have the Baylor Bears. Final score, 79 Baylor, 71 Texas. And that's my bracket. I'm sure you guys disagree with me on several points and several matchups, and that's fine. I've gone back and forth with this bracket so many times. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you soon. Thank you so much for watching, and go enjoy March Madness. Best time of the year. Thanks.